So this is our documentary. The UK has always been a mix of subcultures. Some though are more visible than others. One of the less documented examples is Britain's modified car culture, whose members modify their vehicles and meet together to show them off. The UK car scene right now is very much a mix of styles ranging from street drifters to supercar owners and everything in between. While car culture in the UK seems to be booming recently, with automotive social media channels growing bigger than ever and reaching new audiences and creating new petrol heads, there still seems to be a bit of an image problem with the UK's car culture. There is an issue, in my opinion, with society, and even some of the petrol heads just slamming the boy racer label on anyone who drives or even owns a visibly modified car. It seems that unless someone drives an expensive and probably German car, that they are absolutely not allowed to enjoy it, and that all a car should be is a tool to get from A to B, or as an expensive fashion accessory for the middle-aged, middle-class folk, or kids with rich parents.
So our idea is to look into the car culture, to show people it's not all about 17-year-olds with modified hatchbacks, and to show the history behind the culture and the people that make it. We'll be going to local car meets and speaking to lots of people, basically seeing what cars mean to them and how they play a big part in their lives. Along with this, we will get lots of footage of the car meets to show people who do not know what they are all about. We are also going to focus a lot on social aspect to the culture. We also will be doing and showing random people an older, more expensive car and then a modified car ad, seeing how the general public who are not interested in car views and these cars and the people who drive them.
I'm sorry.
This is our third documentary. The style will be participatory, and we'll be doing this as we want to film our documentary in the style of Vice film. A lot of our documentaries we'll have drawn a lot of inspiration from Vice and their styles of documentary making, as they have made a lot of documentaries that look into subcultures and styles of life within the UK, which is exactly what we're doing. Making our documentary is participatory style will be perfect for our documentary.
This is our storyboard. So we've got the car meets in the right hand side of the screen, showing like this kind of format of car meet that we'll be going to in the UK, also the same as this one here. And then when we're like interviewing the owners of the cars and asking them questions, we'll be doing it like this sort of format, and the top one as well, although that is a salesman, but it'll be that kind of format where the owner is stood next to the car talking to the person. And then this is something that we had a little idea of almost playing with, like a poetic documentary, and we could sort of do segments of our documentary and turn it poetic, where we have some cinematics of cars and some nice music to match.
Yeah, we also got the police officer at the bottom, because we're going to interview like a whole array of people, even the police officers that come and shut down the meets, to see what they think of it all.
What do we hope the audience will gain from watching this? Firstly, who is our audience? The answer is anyone who has an interest in cars, whether they are someone who knows everything there is to know, or someone who is perhaps new to the car world and wants to know more. You don't need to be a car expert to watch, or even be interested in cars, as we will focus on the culture surrounding them and not be filled with engine statistics. We hope to give an alternate insight to how cars are affecting people's lives in the UK. I think our audience will be shocked at how devoted some people are to something as simple as cars. It's a huge feature in some people's lives. Although there will not be a deep meaning to our documentary, we will still provide a very interesting look at car meets, interviews and exciting footage.
It's our character list. So whilst we do not have any specific characters, we'll be talking to a lot of people ranging from everyday people who know nothing about cars to experts who spend thousands on their cars. To gain more of an understanding of the history of car meets, we will also talk to the people who started them, in particular the guys who started a group called RC Meets and how they started it all. If we can, we will also try and arrange meetings with people who are involved with these car meets and talk to them away from the meets and see what it is that makes them love doing what they do.
This is their roles and responsibilities. In our production, it's very important This is because we'll need to do our work together in our own roles, making sure the production is run smoothly and goes straight forward. Luke's a cameraman, interviewer, location finder and networker. Ethan the cameraman and interviewer. I'm also a cameraman and interviewer, and I'm a cameraman and sound man. We have to make sure to fit the roles to the most suitable people, all of us good at camera work and good knowledge, which is why we'll operate the camera at some point. We made sure to do this, each of us using our strengths in this production will make it run smoother.
SARA assessment. So obviously with any car meet you're going to, obviously there's going to be a lot of risks. So you need to be careful, obviously cars drifting, any spillages from oil leaks, anything like that.
That's the end.
Okay, cool. I like the idea. I do. With regards to your risk assessment, you need to put some more stuff on there. Just in as much as. So what else could take place at some of these car meets? Something could kick off.
People get hit by the car.
There's last time I was at one, there was an incident and you had like 50 people chasing this guy in his car and he almost like ran a bunch of people over. So, no, it's not, I mean, stuff like that doesn't happen.
No,
like,
I get what. Look, kid got killed in the park last weekend at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you know, so it doesn't, you don't have to go. What I'm saying is, you're going, more than likely these things will take place at night. I'm not saying you guys are kids, but it doesn't matter if you're a grown-up, big guy or anything like that. Things can happen. You've got the college equipment, you've got to look after yourselves and everything like that. Some people might not like the fact that someone stood there filming it, for example. You could be targeted for that reason. So please, don't ever go for this. Don't ever go to one of these meets as an individual. If you're going to these things, you need to go as a group, 100%. And I'm not saying that, you know, it's just strength in numbers and that kind of thing. And if something was happening, maybe someone could call while someone else is trying to defuse the situation, okay? So please, I do want to see that on there, that you've thought about the fact of your filming situations where maybe people don't want to be filmed and you're going out maybe to environments that aren't PC per se, yeah? Or not PC, but PG, let's say. Okay, clarify something for me. I like it, I think it can be really visual and everything like that, the film. You talk about car culture, but I'm getting, I just need some clarification. Is it about like classic cars, or is it about these meets, for example?
It's purely going to be about like the modified culture in the UK and how people view it, which is why I said about how we will go up and ask people about how they view people who they might see as like, you know, idiots driving around in their modified cars, and how the general public view them compared to how the people that go to these meets, you know, they like devote their whole lives to stuff like this.
Yeah, no, for sure, and that makes sense because, sorry, when you were talking about it before, I wasn't sure if you meant like classic cars, but I know what you mean. So all the cars that have been kind of, as you're saying, modified and stuff like that. So yes, people will look at them as maybe just boy racers, but you're saying there's more to it than that. So you want to show that. So you mentioned, and I believe it was Owen in your section, you mentioned something about social aspect.
Yeah.
Something about the social. What do you mean by the social aspect? And this is to all of you, just like as the thought process behind it. What are you showing it from? I know you're saying as what society deems these people, but also are you saying about the social aspect that this is like a lifestyle for people?
Yeah, well, I think I can answer this. I think it's positive because a lot of people might have friendship groups that are purely based just from these car meets, and like it brings people, like obviously you saw the pictures, there's like hundreds of people, and like if you, especially with the RC meets, people that are putting on the ones that we're going to go to, they like always have a lot of people, and so you're going to start seeing people that you saw like 2 months ago, 2 weeks ago, and start seeing them again, and then like bringing you guys together.
It's definitely a massive social aspect to it, because the one that I went to, it was just a group of people stood around this car that was popping and banging, And me and my mate started talking to these two guys. Turns out they were the owners of RC Meats, and we got talking to them about how they started, and they said it was literally them and two other friends would just meet in car parks with just meet up and hang out. It turned into like meets where you've got like 500 plus cars turning up, so there definitely is a massive social aspect to it.
Okay, no, and that makes sense. And you don't, I'm not saying you are, but you don't need to justify the fact that there's a culture to it. 100% there's a culture. I just wasn't sure when you said a social aspect, but then you didn't clarify. I was just not sure there. So really, the documentary is about showing this kind of, almost if you think about it, skateboarding is a subculture. There's a pro line to it. People will view someone on skateboards as just kids messing about or whatever, but people make millions out of this kind of stuff. So there's a culture around that. So you want to show a culture, the culture of the modified car enthusiasts, if you want to call it that. So things that you need to think about, like who is a car enthusiast?
Yeah, well, the people that we're going to go
Yeah.
meet. Yeah.
So, and that's why I know you said if we can, we will go and venture further into their lives, but you're talking about the culture and a social aspect, but just seeing people hanging out at a meet only gives you one kind of one degree of who that person is. Because then still as an audience we only see the cars, the modified cars and these people. We're not connecting them with anything else. So you want to see them in their home environment almost, or at their place where they basically what you're looking to do is try and put a human face behind just the cars, because otherwise people will still just hear and see the cars and not really understand that this is there's more to it. Do you know what I mean? So I think it is really important that either when you're at these things that you're interviewing people, but you get to know the person behind the vehicle, because then that adds so much more weight to who it is. I come to this thing, but I'm an exec at this company. I'm not some greaser hanging around somewhere, So what you're looking to do is shine a spotlight, but also break some myths and stuff like that as well, yeah? One thing is, you could even sort of talk to council kind of people, because they would be the ones that are banning these meats or allowing these meats. How do they view it? So you almost get a different perspective on it. Because otherwise all you're doing, if you don't find out more about the person, if you don't find out more about the entire culture, the effects that it has on other people and stuff like that, it's one-dimensional. And you're almost selling that back to, you're selling it back to them. That's your only audience, people that are into it. And they already know who they are. You want to break some myths or something like that. So, talking to a local council, have you had issues with people having these meets? Is there a certain area where you go to do these meets?
With RC Meets, all of those are always in Reading. So
Okay.
It could be something
Reading Council. I get it. It's not necessarily the most exciting element of that documentary, but it puts relevance to certain things. That person may say, there's been, I don't know, the police had to go there to stop this while there was actually a fire or a riot somewhere. So that's why, and then maybe you take that back to the RCA meets and say, could it not be a little bit more organised? Because that's like me saying, a whole bunch of my buddies are going to hang out somewhere and we're just going to kick loose and start doing something crazy. Because stop being funny, it must be in a public place that they're doing this, and you're talking about, are you saying that there are people literally racing cars around and stuff like that?
Most of the time, they don't really street race it. They literally send out a location an hour before it happens, and 90% of the time it's just meeting up in a local car park. But you
know where I'm going to. And I'm not saying then that's super bad, but then then that needs to be organised in a
Yeah.
certain way, because that's like, if I say that I'm hanging out here and I'm playing certain music really loud, and when people are trying to walk past, I'm right in their face, and I'm going to get a bad reputation. Yeah? So these people, it's about also making these people aware of the situation, that kind of thing, yeah? I think you have a good story. I think it's really dependent on finding some great characters and stuff like that, and getting some real good, solid information. You talk about showing a history of, history behind where, the history of it, where it all came from. Even talk about facts and figures, like how much money, people love that, you know, start talking about how much money is generated by these things and stuff like that. You know, for cars, once again, I get it, it's not necessarily the most exciting, but how do you insure one of these cars? Because when it's all super modified and stuff like that, that's one of the first things that an insurance person will say, is that, have you modified it at all? Yeah, I've got nitrous oxide, I've got, you know, whatever it is, it's lowered, it's raised, you know. I don't know. Where did it come from? Things like this is what you want to introduce. Nice bit of stock footage at the beginning, that kind of stuff. And it shows a little bit of a history of where this came from. Like, does it connect to, like, some of the racing in America came from the old moonshine boys, because they used to race the police running moonshine. And then they started organising it and actually having races.
Yeah, we could almost feel where we kind of start by talking about how all this modified car culture all comes from Japan.
Okay.
And how it kind of...
Absolutely. Because, like, I don't know that. Because a doc, you're looking to educate someone, you're making people aware of the situation. So you've got to think about that. Maybe you don't have to start with that, but it's like you start showing some meat, so it's almost like you hear the brakes going and go, hang on a minute. Let's look at where it came from, and then you zip back to there, and then you run back through it, that kind of thing. So really, really work on getting your characters, get online, find some people that are involved in this. You're saying it's a culture. There must be social media groups and stuff like that out there that people are talking about it. So ask them who they are, where they come from, what do you do as a job? That's the breaking down all of the stereotypes and putting a face behind who you are. You know, Luke isn't just this. You know, there's more to Luke than what we see in front of us. You know, that kind of thing. Yeah. So I think it is a solid idea. Equipment. I'm sorry. I'm thinking straight away. You need to have things like gimbals and stuff like that, where you can get these beautiful kind of smooth shots. It's sexy. Yeah. These cars are sexy though, aren't they? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you have to make it that way. If you think of like how Top Gear's shot, they don't film Top Gear with static shots. It's all these beautiful moving shots and
drone shots.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if any one of you has a drone or anything like that, but or even if there is a location that you know that they're going to get a high shot, you know, that kind of thing.
One of the best bits about the one that I went to was arriving at the meet. I'm just in my Vauxhall Corsa, but then I've got alongside me people that spent like 50, 60, 70 grand on their cars, like all driving past all as one big group. So that'd make some nice shots.
Absolutely. Like that drift shot, are they coloured? You know, I'm now thinking about the movies. Do they have like lights on them, like underneath and stuff
Some
like that?
Yeah.
Just think about that at night, how visually pleasing that is.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing a subject that, yes, there's a whole load of kind of conversation about it, but visually, these cars have been doled up to look the nines, basically. So you want to show that. Make sure that what you're capturing is a reality. Yeah. So don't you know, your tripod shots and your shaky shots. That doesn't work for that kind of thing. So I do think it needs more work, flushing it out and making sure that you're researching, getting your, you know, your real understanding of where it came from, and really understanding, okay, please don't just go out and film it all and then go, how are we going to put it all together? Before you go out, know how it's going to run. What is going to be your opening scene? How are you going to build the story? That kind of thing. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.